Hey everyone, Joshua here. It's been a little over 8 months now since the Switch 2 came out, and with a few notable releases under Nintendo's belt since then, we're just about reaching the point where people want to know what's next. With games still coming out for the original Switch, and only a handful of new Switch 2 titles announced so far, it's really no wonder. Sure, we've got a few titles on the way, like Pocopia, Yoshi, and even Fire Emblem, but comparing everything we know so far to Nintendo's release schedule from previous years makes it clear that we're missing some pretty heavy hitters. Something that's essential for this console now more than ever. With a pretty interesting partner showcase out of the way, it seems that the next Nintendo Direct, in theory, should be the big one that we've all been waiting for. And I, like many others, am anxious to find out what games Nintendo has up their sleeves. So, today, I figured I'd share some of my predictions for what this year's lineup of games might just look like. So, jumping right into it, one thing that I'd really love to see from Nintendo is a brand new IP. Similar to how ARM's purpose was to highlight split Joy-Con controls for the first Switch, I'd love to see something that takes advantage of one of the Switch 2's new features. The first thing that comes to mind are the mouse controls, and while it's true that Drag X Drive technically fulfills this role, I honestly don't think the game stood out as much as it could have. Sure, the core concept is pretty cool, but it's clear to see how little this game actually does to stand out when you compare it to other newer Nintendo IP like Splatoon or ARMS, for example. And so, I'd love to see another new concept go all in like those games did, with crazy designs, colorful theming, and a cast of unique characters. To be honest, I don't really have a solid idea in mind of what the gameplay could look like, but looking at some of Nintendo's more unique IP from recent years, I'm sure they can find some interesting use for these controls. I'd also love to see Nintendo continue to support whatever this new game would be for more than a few months, because I'm still over here waiting for ARMS 2. Please. Another game that I think could possibly release this year is another smaller scale Zelda game. Nintendo's already gone on record stating that they want the franchise to be a yearly one now, and between that and a brand new movie coming out in just a few months, I imagine that they have something in store. I could see a few possibilities here. Either we could get another 2D remake, a 2D game that's brand new altogether, or we could finally be getting those elusive Wind Waker and Twilight Princess remasters. Honestly, I don't think any of these are too far off, and personally, I'd be pretty happy with any of these. As for the final, more general idea I have in mind, I think it could be really cool if we got another 2D Metroid game. This one may be more of a personal hope than a prediction, since we just got Prime 4, but on the same note, considering those were two different developers altogether, I don't think it matters much. We also recently just passed the 4-year mark since Dread's release, which was about the same gap between the release of Samus Returns and Dread. With the semi-recent resurgence that this franchise has had, it really seems like Nintendo's trying to push the series back into the spotlight. Within the past 9 years, we got a remake, a remaster, 2 brand new games, and an influx of merchandise both online and in Nintendo's flagship stores. Not only this, but the series director, Yoshio Sakamoto, has actually gone on record stating that a new chapter is in the works. And considering that we just got a new Prime game, I imagine it would make sense that another 2D game is on the way soon. Okay, so that's all of the smaller scale, more general stuff out of the way. And next up, I want to dive into some of the more potentially obvious territory for a bit. Back in September, Nintendo kicked off the celebrations for the 40th anniversary of the Super Mario franchise. And aside from the movie stuff, there haven't been a ton of big announcements yet. Sure, we just got a brand new Mario sports game, and DLC for Wonder and a new Yoshi game are on the way, but nothing really screams 40th anniversary so far, at least to me. I think Nintendo may have more on the way, and we just don't know about it yet. One of the games that I think would be really cool to see during this celebration is Mario Maker 3. The first Mario Maker originally released as a celebration of the franchise's 30th anniversary, so I think releasing the third installment for the 40th would be pretty fitting. It's also been about 5 years since the last installment in the series, and with the Switch 2 now supporting mouse mode and Mario Maker 2 not getting a Switch 2 update, I think this would be the perfect opportunity for the next installment. We've also got a whole new 2D Mario game since Mario Maker 2 came out, and I think that would work perfectly as an additional game style. I could also see them utilizing it to market Wonder's upcoming DLC, or maybe the other way around depending on which one releases first. And while we're on the topic of Mario games, I'd absolutely love to see Luigi's Mansion 4 revealed at some point this year. With all 3 games finally playable on the same system, I really think it could be the perfect time for this. The developers of the franchise, Next Level Games, haven't released a game of their own since Strikers in 2022, so there's no doubt that they've been working on something all this time since then. So far, in previous installments, we've explored various mansions and a towering hotel, and I really want to see what's next. Luigi's Mansion 3 was already an incredible looking game on the Switch 1, and now with the power that the Switch 2 is capable of, I'm really excited to see how big the franchise could go from here. Now, I would say that I could see a fall release for this game, similar to the release of Luigi's Mansion 3 in time for Halloween, but honestly, I think a release early next year could be a little more likely. And that's because of the game that I'll be discussing next, which I think already has the fall release slot locked in. Okay, so now that I mentioned it, it's time to talk about the elephant in the room. The obvious game that everybody's been waiting for since 2017. The next 3D Mario game. It's been roughly 9 years since Odyssey came out, which is insane to think about. Comparing all of the release dates of the previous big 3D Mario games, we can see that this is the longest gap between releases, so I definitely think it's been long enough. Now, I've already seen the discussion that since the Odyssey team were the ones who actually developed Bonanza, that there's no way a new game could be coming so soon. And honestly, I disagree. Supposedly, it's been reported that the Odyssey team actually split in 2 in order to develop Bonanza, and there are also apparently some pretty prominent names missing from the game's credits, so I think it's really possible that we have 2 different teams working on 2 different games. Regardless on how true this actually is, I really do still think that it's time for the next big 3D Mario game by now. Nintendo needs a real heavy hitter to convince those people who are still on the fence about buying a Switch 2, and this game would be it for a lot of people. Mario Odyssey just recently hit the 30 million sold mark, and it sits up there as one of the top 5 best-selling games on the original Switch. It's pretty clear to see the massive influence that these games carry, so I think it would be a huge missed opportunity to not release, or at least announce, a new mainline Mario game during such a massive anniversary for the series. Okay, so those are all of my predictions for games that I think could be released this year, or at the very latest, early next year. Now, I want to switch gears a bit and discuss some of the games that I think could still be announced this year, but might still be a ways off. I don't have too many predictions for these, but I do have an idea of a few things that we could potentially see at least confirmed this year. Right out the gate, something I think we might get a teaser for sometime soon is the next entry in the Animal Crossing series. It's been nearly 6 years since the previous game's release, which just about lines up with the announcement schedule New Horizons followed. Now, since new content was just released for New Horizons, I don't see us getting any sort of major trailer for the next entry yet. However, I do think it's possible that we'll see some sort of smaller scale teaser, or at the very least, confirmation that the next game is officially in development. As for what this game exactly would be, well, personally, I hope that the series returns to its roots a little bit. To me, Animal Crossing has always been about taking it slow, existing alongside the world your villager lives in. A bit of that charm seems a little lost on New Horizons in my opinion, so I would really love to see the next game take a slower approach, and be more in line with some of the previous releases. Now, on that same note, I know New Horizons brought in a lot of newer fans, so in order to appease both groups of people, maybe the next game could give us some sort of choice at the start of a new file, on whether we want full control of the town, or if we just want to let things happen around us as we play. I think that could be a pretty fair solution that would make both groups of fans pretty happy. Finally, I'd love to see something about the next mainline Zelda game. I genuinely don't think this prediction is too out there, despite Tears of the Kingdom only releasing a little under 3 years ago. It's been confirmed that that game was finished a whole year before actually being released, which means that the Zelda team has actually had since about 2022 to work on some new ideas. In those past 4 years, I imagine some concepts for the next big game have already been put in place. With Production Group 3 of Nintendo EPD, who are the main developers of these big Zelda games, done with Echoes of Wisdom and Age of Imprisonment now, there's currently nothing known being developed by them. Personally, I hope that this next game will continue the trend of open-world Zelda titles. I think the gameplay is actually really fitting for the core themes and concept of the series, and even Aonuma seemed to think that it was the future of the franchise. Having the past 2 mainline Zelda games being open world now, I think it would be a little jarring going back to that older style of gameplay. And honestly, I think the newer 2D Zelda games that we've been getting sort of fill this role anyway. One thing that I would like to see being completely different this time around though, is the setting. We've had these past 2 games set in the same version of Hyrule now, and I think it could be refreshing to see something new, akin to something like Termina from Majora's Mask, or even the Dark World from A Link to the Past. I'd also love to see some of the older items like the hookshot or even some of the instruments come back into play, because I think those could be used in some pretty cool ways, especially in an open world environment. I realize I'm kind of rambling by now, but at the very least, I think it'd be super cool to get some sort of teaser for the next big Zelda game, even if it's still a ways away. After all, Breath of the Wild was originally revealed at E3 back in 2014, which was a whole 3 years before its eventual release. So, there you have it. Those are all of my predictions for what I think we could see from Nintendo this year. I've really been enjoying my Switch 2 so far, and regardless of how accurate this list actually winds up being, I'm still really excited to see what's in store for year 2 of this console. Now, I'm interested in hearing your guys' thoughts. Does this list seem accurate to you, or do you think I'm out of my mind? Maybe you have some ideas of your own of what we might see this year. If so, feel free to share them in the comments below. I'd love to read them all. That's going to be all for me today. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Later.